Let's go now to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the site of the Democratic National Convention. First to Jackie Coppell, political commentator and satirist. Check her out at newsynews.tv, live streaming from the convention as she was doing last week from Cleveland, Ohio. Joining us today from the incredible public transportation system of Philadelphia. So what's
You
going
got it.
on, Jackie? I mean, we've been talking about the DNC email leaks. We've been talking about booing of references to Hillary Clinton, some of the protests. Assess the size of this anti-Hillary movement at the convention.
Sure. I can speak, and I apologize for some of the background noise. Speaking to the size of the protests, it's actually not nearly as big as I think the media is making it out to be. I know everyone likes to beat up on the media, and this may be no different. There was a big walk slash, march to close to the convention, the Wells Fargo Center. And in fact, it wasn't that big. I was surprised. I sort of expected thousands of people, and I think, they were very passionate, but probably only about 500 people. So the size of the actual protest was not huge. And in fact, someone said they were like marchers took forever because they were marching down the street, but they weren't marching in packs. It was just stragglers. So it may have gone on for a long time, but there really weren't as many as expected. There are protests going on downtown for sure, but sort of around the convention center, the protesters yesterday were, yelling and trying to get people's attention as they walked into the convention center. By the way, the perimeter is quite far away, so when I say go into the convention center, I mean go into the perimeter to then head into the convention center. Much like Cleveland, the perimeter is a ways away, so no one's getting in.
And what's going on as far as the reaction from, if you've spoken to any Bernie or Busters, who we knew prior to the DNC leaks, which showed this very clear lack of neutrality from the Democratic National Committee. We had polls showing us that 75 to 85% of Bernie supporters were already saying they would ultimately support Hillary Clinton. Has the
Right.
mood or the scene around that changed at all?
I don't think so. An article came out, actually, I think it was yesterday, saying that up to 90% of Sanders supporters will support Hillary Clinton. I think his speech last night, except for maybe the total diehards, I think his speech last night really spoke to his endorsement of her and his understanding that a Donald Trump presidency would be cataclysmic. So, anyone who believes in truly the principles that Bernie stands for recognizes that there's no shot in hell with a Donald Trump presidency. But at least with Hillary Clinton, they can work with her, they can negotiate. There's an opportunity there, and that just I think it's very clear Bernie Sanders recognizes that and recognizes, this is serious and not to be messed with. He even had actually texted his supporters asking them not to sort of, cause a ruckus, as it were. And by and large, they really didn't. Again, there are reports of, there's booing. There wasn't very much booing once the night got started. I think everyone was pretty inspired. There were some passionate supporters who shouted out a little bit. But by and large, I do think that Donald Trump is helping bring people together.
We're going to
I'm sure
talk
that,
to we're going to talk to Ben Dixon on about his sense of this after we speak to you, and I'm curious whether it would be similar or different.
yeah,
The thing that I'm sort of thinking about is this seems to have become bigger than Bernie at this point. And the interesting thing about that text message you're mentioning is it seems to have gone beyond just, well, it's the principles of Bernie that I support. It's in some of the people I've been speaking with, anger that an organization that claimed neutrality was not actually neutral. And the problem is a
right,
pragmatic one that you're mentioning, which is anything other than a vote for Hillary now is one vote Donald Trump will not need to overcome in order to be
right,
president. So I really am
absolutely.
unsure. I've seen no polling done. I don't think any has been done post the DNC leaks at this point. I don't know how many people will ultimately be aware of that. I don't know what the impact will be. But in a sense, it's bigger than Bernie now.
Yeah, I think that that's totally true. I apologize. I was looking for my charger. I think that that's true. I think it has gotten out of hand, that he can't control his own delegates. And I think it speaks to um, what a lot of people are saying, which is that those people weren't necessarily true Bernie folks. You've seen a lot of people, his campaign staff have come out and said, we lost. This was not, we just lost, right? Not that it was rigged, not that there was anything against them, but that they lost, essentially saying fair and square. The DNC leaks obviously don't look good, but when their campaign staff is saying, look, guys, we lost, I don't know how else to say it, it bears remembering. And I think some people in this country are just angry. And whether that's anger at their situation or that's anger at Clinton and the Clintons just in general, it exists. And there are some people who are just never going to vote for her no matter what. But I think it seems like people recognize that if they are a believer in the cause, much like Sarah Silverman said, it is ridiculous to think that a Donald Trump presidency is somehow remotely better with so much on the line, including the Supreme Court.
All right, Jackie Coppell, newsynews.tv, joining us from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Jackie, thank you so much. We'll continue following it.
Thank you so much. I hope to chat with you later this week, and I'll bring you to the convention center next time, so I'll see what's happening there.
Let's go next to Benjamin Dixon, host of the Benjamin Dixon program. He is also in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Ben, we just heard from Jackie Coppell, her view of the booing and the division. And it was actually a view that said that it was really not hugely significant once the convention actually got going in earnest, mostly positive. Unity, rallying around keeping Trump from being president, if not necessarily in favor of Hillary Clinton. What's your sense of that?
I wouldn't say she's entirely inaccurate. It was small pockets. As the convention, as the night went on, particularly, let's say, in the prime time hours, the booing and the division was really in small pockets, but it was very audible in the arena. You could definitely hear strong, sustained boos, taunting, heckling. It was present, and it was noticeable, and it was almost disruptive, but it was just shy of being disruptive.
Have you talked to people in terms of the specifics of now what is catalyzing the displeasure? And the reason I ask that is, prior to DNC leaks and the email leaks, the assumption would have been for me that it was mostly a political situation. Do they like the idea of supporting Hillary Clinton in spite of having voted for Bernie Sanders to prevent Donald Trump from being president? Or is that not a palatable, sort of pragmatic way to vote?
Right.
Post DNC leaks, now I have real questions about whether this has become bigger than Bernie, as you and I have spoken about yesterday.
Yep.
What is the theme of the discontent there?
Most certainly bigger than Bernie. People are there. There's a lot of very vocal dissent with Bernie Sanders, to the extent that some calling him a sellout, etc. But it's gone beyond Bernie Sanders. It's gone beyond his ability to silence the movement or even be the representative, the leader of the movement. And so a lot of people have taken it upon themselves to make that call for themselves, specifically based on, David, like you mentioned, the DNC leaks. It really was a flashpoint for this progressive movement, for the people who are here because they believed this was happening all along. And so where after Bernie Sanders endorsed Hillary Clinton, there was sort of a lull. People were kind of simmering down, for lack of a better word, right now. But the DNC leaks, the emails, really set it off a little bit more than it would have been in the absence of that. And it's something that Bernie Sanders himself really can't control.
Has there been any discussion of this idea that Bernie Sanders' presence there is going to sort of force some, I don't know if it would necessarily be acquiescing, but maybe less than completely thrilling acceptance of so-called Bernie's progressive values, to the extent that they're further to the left than the maybe the center of the Democratic Party platform or whatever, however we want to define it. Is there this idea of optimism that Bernie's presence there is going to achieve X or Y in terms of Hillary's candidacy?
No, I wouldn't say so. And this is, from listening to other voices, just listening to Hillary Clinton post, prior to the convention, it really doesn't feel like there's going to be a lot of shifting to the left because of Bernie Sanders' presence. Now, anecdotally, in the area that I was sitting in, just walking around, listening to a lot of voices, particularly while Bernie Sanders was speaking, it really was about let's absorb Bernie Sanders. Let's bring bring them in. Let's reel them in, and let's hold up our signs saying Bernie, Bernie for the next 5 minutes, or the next, it was a longer speech than that. But while he's speaking, let's show some solidarity there. But underneath a lot of voices, I heard people voicing dissent, asking, is he ever going to say anything new? There was a lot of division, not so much from the Bernie Sanders side, but from the Hillary Clinton side. A lot of the supporters that I got a chance to talk to, people surrounding me while he was speaking, really did not have a lot of love for Bernie Sanders, even though they were holding Bernie Sanders signs in their hand, chanting Bernie when everyone else was chanting it. It really was about, let's just get him out of the way.
Okay, there were isolated reports of Bernie signs being taken from people, and I sort of am trying to understand this because there was a certain point at which the Bernie sign seemed part of the official signage, right? At the point at which he was speaking.
Exactly.
What do you know about that? I mean, is there anything to that?
Yeah, so there was a group of delegates. I believe the delegates were from Washington, who were protesting the entire night with Bernie Sanders signs with tape on their mouth, saying that they had been silenced. There were reports that those signs were taken, which really didn't make sense to me, because I would say 20 minutes after those reports went out, the official sign team came around with Bernie Sanders signs. So I'm not sure if that was a meaningful way of silencing them or not.
All right, Benjamin Dixon in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He seems to actually know what's going on, which is great, because you see so many isolated claims made about whatever, and it's people who really don't actually know what it is that is taking place there. So Ben, really appreciate it. Of course, check out Ben's YouTube channel and his program, and we'll talk to you tomorrow, Ben.
All right, see you tomorrow. Thanks a lot, David.
GameFly is sort of like Netflix for video games. They have over 8,000 new and classic games for Xbox One, Xbox 360, PS4, PS3, Wii, and a bunch of other platforms. And you can play as many games as you want for one monthly fee. And if you find some games you want to keep, you can buy them for a low used price. There's never any due dates or late fees. And our audience can get a free 30-day trial at gameflyoffer.com/TDPS. The games are shipped directly to you with return envelopes included. There's no contracts, and you can rent games through the mobile app. Get the free 30-day trial for the David Pakman Show audience and support our show by going to gameflyoffer.com/TDPS.